Have you ever been locked in an argument that you can't solve with someone who's important to you? Kind of like power struggles. I'm right, and they think they're right. And it's been ongoing. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today, is how to manifest loving relationships. I think you're going to really like it. But before we dive in, if you would like to get a quick little workbook and guided meditation to kickstart your manifesting, please go to mindfulachiever.com, and you can get it completely free. You're listening to Ariana Rollins, and this is Mindful Manifesting. All right. So one of my favorite activities is to bring someone into peaceful, harmonious, presence in their life, and most importantly, in their most important relationships. Because I don't know about you, but for me, those people I allow into my heart, into my inner sanctum, my friend used to say, they matter to me. Their view matters to me. Their well-being matters to me. That we spend time together matters to me. And I hold them in my heart. Actually, I do that with my clients too. Much to my chagrin. I got to look up what that word means. Chagrin. That's funny. Sometimes I'll get these words and they just pop in. And when I have created a connection, a bond, their success matters to me, whether it's a client or whether it's a really good friend or a family member. What they're doing in their life and where they want to go matters. So it's almost like, I envision this, they're driving the car, their choices, their life, their path, but I'm in the passenger seat, and maybe I'll see that there's a car accident upcoming and pull over to the speed lane, the high speed lane. Okay. And that enables them to get where they want to go faster and with less stress and aggravation. I can see things. I've often nicknamed myself Canary in the Mine. And I remember back in a job that they brought on somebody, and this person was going to be a liaison between the people providing the service and sales. And they were coming from a sales background. So they're trying to sell the people into a higher level program when they completed. So as soon as on contact, I saw this person and I heard the role they're going to be playing, I'm like, uh-oh. And I didn't have any evidence for it. Didn't. But over the months unfolded, I'm like, oh, this, and this has now impacted the workload of the people delivering the service. They were coaches. And I knew this on contact. I couldn't do anything about it yet because I didn't know all the details. But I knew this was not going to be a loving, harmonious relationship. I seemed to have a radar for that. And I seemed to be really good at helping people get back into that peacefulness and accepting what is, if you can't change it, but changing what you can change. All right, so let's dive into activating, manifesting a loving relationship. First, it starts with knowing those relationships that matter to you. You probably have heard this story. I can't remember who actually designed it, who did the talk, and then it's just repeated over and over again. You take this empty jar and you put some big rocks in it. And then you think, oh, it's full. And then you pour some pebbles in it and they think, oh, it's full. Then you pour some fine sand. You think, oh, it's full. And then you add water. So the big rocks are the ones that are your most important, in this case, your most important relationships. Because at the end of the day, we take the love that we've shared with others away when we take our last breath. That's what's meaningful, is that love shared, that connection. So if you have an idea of those big rocks, the big ones, rocks doesn't sound like a nice thing when I talk about relationships, but you know what I mean. And you have a these are the ones that matter to me. These are the ones I want to put energy into. These are the ones that I want to nurture. And then you look at possibly, okay, what are the pebbles? Maybe if you're self-employed, you have clients. Maybe the clients are pebbles. Again, I don't mean to diminish them at all. You guys just get the metaphor, right? So the clients really matter, right? They're going to probably go in after your primary relationships. And then what else? What's the sand? Now, isn't that an interesting thought? What would you say the sand is? If you're self-employed, maybe the sand is your support team. Again, not diminishing them. Maybe the sand is the admin, the things you have to do to keep your business running. So if you go back to this metaphor, you're taking care of your primary relationships. And by the way, if you didn't have your name on that primary relationship list, please add it now. Because if you don't have a peaceful, harmonious, loving relationship with yourself and you're criticizing yourself, well, you're pretty much no use to anything or anyone. Take it from someone who has lived it. Okay. So if you're looking at that, then you know what comes first, okay? Say you have limited energy, limited time, and you have this overwhelming to-do list. If a family member calls, a loved one calls, and you've got this overwhelming to-do list, you look at, okay, they're a big rock. They are important, so I'm going to respond to that. So let's tie this back into what do I mean by manifesting loving relationships? Well, first, knowing what's important to you. What do you want? And if it's growing your business, that's priority right now. You're not in a relationship. You don't have people really close to you, then great. Maybe your clients are your big rocks. That's perfect. Maybe your group program is one of your big rocks. That's great. There's no judgment, but just you knowing that is going to inform you where you're going to put your energy. It's going to inform you where you're going to take some energy back if you're feeling drained, if you've given too much out, because you want to nurture those things that are most meaningful to you. So I was going to bring a metaphor about the garden, but okay, rein that one back in, Ariana. Okay. So manifesting tips for creating loving relationships, manifesting loving relationships. So I have worked with quite a few people over my many years doing this. And they have come to me saying, I've been out of a relationship 6 years and I would really like to be in a relationship. And I'll say, why? And they'll say, I want companionship. I don't want to die alone. It's easier if you have a partner, you shared resources, someone to travel with. Now, none of those things are wrong. That's why that person wants a partnership. Another person could say, I just love to nurture and love people. Oh my gosh, I feel so good when I'm nurturing and loving someone. And I'd love to have that with a partner where I get to spend a lot of time with. And they really matter to me. Okay. Another person could come to me and say, I know it's where I do my biggest growth. I grow so much in relationship. I get to learn about myself. I get to give. I get to identify any blockers that are interfering with me creating a loving partnership. I grow. Then another person could come to me and say, well, that's just what you do. You know, I'm 30 years old and maybe I want to have children. And you got to have a partner for that. So I think it's time for me to get serious and start dating seriously and maybe getting married. Okay. So none of those are better or worse answers. But I will say, and I recognize and I acknowledge that person knew why they wanted to be in partnership, why they wanted to create a loving relationship. Then I've had people come to me and say, you know, I'm on the edge of divorce. You know, I married my husband 5 years ago. We've got 2 young children, and I thought he was someone different than he is. And we're not connected anymore. I'm just always taking care of the children, and he's working all the time, and I don't feel loved. I don't feel appreciated. Okay? So for that person, and this is a wonderful little story. I'm going to continue with this one because this is probably one that touches my heart most deeply. Of a lot of the clients I've worked with, this one really touches me. Is she came to me and she said, I need to make my own income. I've been a stay-at-home mom, but I'm planning on leaving my husband and raising my 2 children as a single mom. And this I want to build my network marketing business to provide for me. I'm like, okay. So we worked on, she learned how to set an objective. She learned how to identify clearly what she wanted in her network marketing business, new distributors who would share the product, and then increases her overall revenue, increases her check, her commissions. And by the way, she did well. She brought on, I think, 3 new distributors in that first month or so of working with me. And then there was a shift. It was really interesting. And I can't say that there was an exact moment, but she was working on clearing the blockers, the unconscious patterns and ways of thinking and being and doing that were interfering with what she wanted, growing her business. And lo and behold, one day she said, "It's really interesting, Ariana, that my husband came home and I looked at him and I saw a different person." She said, "There was this flash of the person I married, the person I loved." I was like, that's interesting. That's interesting. So we continued to work on her business, and then suddenly I get a beautiful message that she had a heart-to-heart with her husband, and that she realized he was the man she wanted to be with. She loved him, but she had all of this hurt that had built up around her heart. She couldn't see the man he always was. She, instead of having rose-colored glasses on about him, she had these dark gray glasses, and she was full of bitterness. So through clearing the patterns, the blocks, the programming, she tapped into a loving relationship. And why it's so meaningful to me is that she was going to be a single mom. That's a hard path with 2 children. Very hard path if you're going to try to make it in network marketing and be able to provide for your children and be there for your children. That's a tough road. It can be very fulfilling. Like, I still get my network marketing check, but in the beginning it was challenging, and I wasn't able to give my son as much attention as I wanted to when he was little. So she ended up creating a loving partnership with her current partner, her husband. And this is what was so interesting. All of a sudden, she started to get interested in the family business. It was a funeral parlor. And she started hanging out with the family in the business, and she discovered she really wanted to work with the grieving people. She wanted to be part of the family business. She got offered a fantastic job, so she didn't even have to do the network marketing anymore. She was so fulfilled, and she came to me wanting to build her network marketing business so she could leave her husband. So sometimes we don't know why we begin the work of transformation and growth. We don't know, we've got the idea of why, but the ultimate reason, the ultimate change that happens is often months later. We realized, wow, that's what I really wanted. So activating a loving relationship does not mean that you need to find a new partner. Doesn't mean you need to be alone because you're in frustration with your current partnership. It doesn't mean that you need to be alone. It could be that you activate a loving relationship with yourself. I'll give you some manifesting tips on that. And then you are someone worthy of loving. Think about that. Are you going to attract a higher caliber partner if you are in a place of loving and accepting yourself? Hands down, no question. Another quick story about, this is a recent client story. He came to me years ago. He had been in a toxic relationship, and someone could say she was abusive, and that he had ended the relationship, and he snuck out kind of in the cloak of dark because she was violent. And he just left. And that he came to me after 6-7 years of being alone. And he said, I'm really, really missing relationship, but I don't want to go back into that kind of partnership. I couldn't survive it. So he did a lot of work, clearing the blocks, clearing the patterns that caused him to pick that relationship partner in the first place. And during the latter part of the program, I remember he switched on the paid version of Match.com. He had been playing on it, but he had not done the paid one. And suddenly this woman pops in, and he's like, ooh, she's attractive. And then he finds out she messaged him the year before, but because he didn't have the paid version, he never saw her message. Isn't that interesting? That's sometimes how blockers, patterns, and programs can cause us to not do things that if we were to do it, like this man is extremely wealthy, millionaire, and he didn't want to pay for the paid version of Match.com. So it caused him to think, no, it's not worth it, right? I'll just do the free. But he missed out potentially because that woman could have started pursuing somebody else. But he reached out to her and they started hanging out together. He took it slow because he'd learned that I need to really see what's the caliber of this person. How do they treat people? How do they treat me? Over time, he was able to witness and unfold what she was like inside her beingness and not just the physical attraction. The really cool news, I touched base with him a couple months ago. They're getting married this year. So there's all sorts of ways to activate a loving relationship. Let's start with first being loving to yourself, because I will tell you, this particular man was not loving to himself. How could you be loving to yourself if you stay in a toxic, abusive relationship for many, many years? You can't. And those, how we settle, what we accept, what we allow, it changes us. Because we start to think that that's all we are worthy of. And those are the first patterns we shift. Because being a frog gently warmed in the water and then it starts boiling and you're dead, well, you slowly adapt to how that person is, avoiding conflict, accepting their treatment of us. And then we think that's all we are. We're someone who is worthy of this treatment. We're someone who is not worthy of being deeply listened to or supported or loved. So finding what we want, clearly articulating it, and then clearing the resistance that comes up. So let's talk about, and then we'll start to wrap up. Let's talk about, here are some techniques, and I've personally used them, and I share them with my clients, whoever's in that part of the journey, because each person's unique, and I bring out exactly what they need. First is recognizing when you're being hard on yourself. Like, you're so stupid, Ariana. Why'd you do that? You're so mean, Ariana. Catch yourself, okay? Now, if it's an unconscious pattern, you might not be able to see it right away. Just be diligent. Second thing is ask yourself, would you talk to a loved one like that? Would you talk to a young child like that? If it's a yes, well, conversation's over. I don't think you would, okay? You'd say no. Okay, third is how can you reframe that? Because obviously you're disappointed in yourself and you wish you'd do something differently. So, for example, you'll often hear me talk about the dog because the dog he's my little teacher. I'm learning from him, okay? So we went for a walk last night and I was going to pick up a package and I thought I saw another little Australian shepherd, one of his best friends, a little mini. So we started approaching, but this woman was a different woman. So I thought, maybe, my friend had a dog care person. So I started approaching the dog. I said, are you walking Saint? Well, the woman didn't say anything, and then all of a sudden the little Australian Shepherd went ballistic, barking, pulling on the leash. And the woman is just looking at me like, I don't know what's going on. And so I'm trying to get my dog away, who's now triggered, and we're trying to avoid. And I just said to the woman, can you just please keep walking? Let's kind of neutralize this. But she was frozen in place and just allowing the dog to bark his little butt off. And if I had not had good control of the leash, they could have got a fight, right? So the whole story around that was, Ariana, you were terrible. You were so mean by pulling the dog's leash and yanking him back. You're a terrible, mean dog owner. Those are the thoughts that go on in my head because I did not perform well. But looking at that situation, pausing, because I am practicing this myself. I teach you what I'm doing myself. I was like, what could I have done? Well, possibly moved around behind the car to see if it was truly our little doggy buddy. And if not, then distract the dog with treats. Don't go full on thinking it's your doggy buddy saint. Okay, but now, dog's triggered. What else could I have done? Say, so sorry, my dog's sensitive, reactive, and go the other way. Take on full 100% responsibility. Okay, but I let it escalate. So when we're hard on ourselves, we could say, well, how could I do it differently? Mental rehearsal. Oh, this is what I could have done. And guess what happens? Next time you're faced in that situation, you might have a different response. So cool, right? So getting to loving of yourself, that's a very quick tip. And if you want more recommendations on getting to those deep-seated patterns and rewriting and reframing your history, I'd love to offer you my recommendations. So reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram, Ariana Rollins, and then obviously mindfulachiever.com. Reach out and we can have a quick conversation, or I can send you an email, my recommendations. All right. Oh, this was a good episode. I hope you enjoyed it. So as we start to wrap up, remember, you can get your free guided meditation and little workbook at mindfulachiever.com. And as you confirm yourself, you chart your own path to success in your timing, on your time frame. So much love. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now. Have you ever been locked in an argument